we are live. It's me. I'm back. May to December Malcolm, joined by the ever engrossing Marx, who's also got his twin behind him. And so,
hey, just I'm about to go up. I've got another special guest as well.
Oh, look at that.
Right at the point where this fella appears, and I'm like, Billy, no, Billy, no. And here he is. He is playing for BeetleJuice's baby.
Those eyes shine so
much.
So how are you doing?
I'm doing well. I've had a good couple of months. I saw a few films in the festival. I went overseas. Just come back from Spain. Well, it's still hot there because me and Malcolm are in England, and it's like torrential rain and snow on the way here. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I basically at one point was in hospital, got very ill, had serious dizziness, wasn't able to walk, wasn't able to talk, wasn't able to basically do anything. So that's cleared up for the most part now. Still have issues, but I think those issues are lingering, side effects like almost tripping over and stuff. As long as I can stand up without being sick, I'm happy. So
yeah, that was awful. Me and Malcolm were talking to each other during that time, and he was very, very, very unwell for quite a few weeks as well. A month or so, a little bit.
I thought Donna being a nurse, she thought I had a tumor or something.
Oh Jesus!
Yeah.
But I gave you the tip.
Darth said yes.
Hey Darth, how you doing, fella? Good to have you back.
Hey Darth, there we go. There we go. Put them up. Hey.
And I gave you the tip for anyone who's ill to listen to audio commentaries, because if you're sick with equilibrium, you can't really watch TV or listen to too much. And there's only so many podcasts you can do.
I tried doing it. I tried watching some TV, on my Kindle Fire. And that didn't go down well. I started spinning around and, awful. But I'm starting to feel a little bit better. I'm starting to feel a little bit more wide awake and, all this stuff. On and off days, but I'm getting there. As Darth Sidious knows, because I've been responding to his messages as much as I normally do. So I'm hoping to get back into that more. But,
mine. Yes. Malcolm is the king of answering it. You won't wait for long for a reply from Malcolm if you ask him something. So I become alerted to something not being right when I was talking to Malcolm and getting long pauses, and that's when he told me he wasn't well. And very worrying, I think, is definitely the phrase. No one wants to hear. I'm very close to Malcolm, because we're family, and to hear that he was unwell, as badly unwell as he was a bit of a scare. But yeah, I mean, it goes to show for anyone who's God forbid that happens to, or happens to someone close to happen to, you come out the other side. You just got to, weather it through. So
definitely.
But not easy.
So let's get started. Let's not delay the topic. So first of all, I want to start off with, because you were around when the first BeetleJuice came out. You're a young whippersnapper, weren't you? You were like what, 30?
Yeah, I was. How old was I when BeetleJuice came out? I think I was about 15.
Yeah, so it would have been about that, I think.
I hadn't seen.
When did it come out?
88.
Yeah, you were 14 when I was born.
Mm-hmm.
So you would have been 14, 15 when you saw it. So you've got fonder memories of the first one than me. So talk about that first before we get into the second one.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought it up, because I'd love to, because this is a bit where, and hopefully the T-shirt and the background will convince you I'm a big fan of this film. But yeah, I hadn't seen Pee-wee's Big Adventure, which was Burton's first film, Tim Burton. BeetleJuice had these really wacky trailers. So when I watched the actual film, hired it from the video store, it was not the film I was expecting at all. And it was a bit of a game changer. And it's hard for the younger ones out there to imagine that there wasn't really many films like BeetleJuice back then. If they were very serious, like Eraserhead, which is early 80s, is very off kilter. But that was an art film. It wasn't a mainstream
Dr. Caligari is one. Dr. Caligari is a lot like BeetleJuice.
Very much, yeah. Good call, good call. So yeah, it was a film that when I first watched it with my friend Lee, we were like, "What's this?" Some of it's funny, but it doesn't feel particularly like a comedy. So but because there's so much to factor into this, and I'll keep it brief. So the first thing was there wasn't many films like BeetleJuice, and the second thing was there wasn't much of a choice of films either back then. So even if it was a film that you quite liked or thought was okay, you'd probably end up revisiting it because there was no streaming, there was no abundance of films on TV. There was only like,
especially if you rented it every week, you'd go in the store, you'd pick up titles. If you caught up with them, you'd rent the same titles again because you wanted to see them again.
Yeah, exactly. And you'd re-rent some films, especially if you went to the store. I mean, again, it's something that was alien. You would go. I remember try week after week to rent the Steve Martin comedy Roxanne, and that was always out. Somebody had always rented it. There was only so many quality videotapes of that film, so it was like no. And you'd look at the shelf and go, "Oh, I guess I'll watch the BeetleJuice film again." And I was bootlegging back then as well, so I would have a bad copy of it. I was like, "Oh, I can watch that again." I think I had a bit of a crush on Winona Ryder, so I was like, "Oh, that's got it." And the more I watched it, particularly the music, I was like, I think I kind of love this film now. When I first watched it, I didn't really gel with it. I like BeetleJuice, the character, and I like the story, but the humor and the look of the film was very strange. And I think without BeetleJuice, I would not have instantly fallen in love with Heathers a couple of years after, because Heathers is also, whilst it's not gothic in its look,
it's very surreal, like BeetleJuice.
Exactly. So it was definitely paving. You got to remember, I hadn't seen a David Lynch film. I hadn't seen a David Cronenberg film. I was a 15-year-old stupid kid. So to be thrown from a police academy film into BeetleJuice was a little bit like, well, what's this? I kind of like it, but it's weird. And Darth Sidious says, I remember seeing it in the theater. That's so awesome, Darth. I'm so jealous. And
it's funny because Tim Burton's dark world building style is probably still to this day one of the ones that really sticks out. You can always tell a Tim Burton by a film when you look at it.
So many people have ripped that off as well. He's definitely copied it.
It's like a maestro of that anyway. It's basically like Mario Bava and Dario Argento to Jolly.
Yeah, and Mario Bava, of course, will be bringing it up later because he has a heavy reference in the sequel.
Yes.
But yes,
nice.
Yeah, I thought you'd like that. When I watched that scene for the first time, I really thought of you and knew how much you would get out of it. But yeah, so I think I would have, if I'd have seen it in the cinema in a dark room with other people, I would have instantly tapped into it. As it was, it took me a couple of watches to really embrace the film and love it. And that meant that every Tim Burton film that came after that, I instantly had an affection for. Yeah. I think a lot of people's breakout film in the UK for Burton was probably Batman. BeetleJuice had a mild presence of following over here. You've got to remember, this is all pre-goth. And it was funny, my girlfriend and I watched BeetleJuice. She'd never seen it. And I was trying to talk to her about the significance of Winona Ryder's character and how she basically kind of created the goth culture.
A generation, wasn't it? It was like it created a massive...
Exactly. Which ties in a lot of the themes in the sequel as well. It's hard to look at Winona Ryder's Lydia in that film and not realise what a huge cultural phenomenon that was going to beget in terms of girls not wanting the Mean Girls look. They wanted something else, something a little, not quite punk, not quite Barbie, but something, different. And yeah, so that, it was definitely a very important film. I think when I saw it on Sky Movies again, which was a premium channel that had just come out in the UK, because again, exactly, these movies on, I want to watch it for the bit where I don't really like the beginning stuff so much, but I love it when BeetleJuice comes into it. And by the time I'd watched that, I realised all of the things, the world building of BeetleJuice, that was such a big part of it. I'd have loved, like Darth, to have seen it in a cinema, because I think thrown into that world in a room full of people reacting, I would have bought into it a bit.
It's interesting talking about the cinema, because I think sometimes whether a film is good or bad, depending on the film itself, obviously if it's really bad, you're not going to like it. But the cinema experience can change your mind on it. Like, I saw Wanted in the cinema, right? And to this day, I love that film, even though it's not the greatest film.
Yeah.
Because I saw it in the cinema, it gave me that electrifying feel.
Yeah. And BeetleJuice, I've never seen the first one in the cinema. I probably should correct that. But yeah, it's such an impressive looking film. So yeah, it was nice to watch it. 36 years. I've seen it. It's probably one of my most watched films. So I've gone from not being sure about it to absolutely adoring it, to getting every poster thing. You know, I had all sorts of collectibles of BeetleJuice. I used to watch the not many people know this, but it had an animated cartoon spin-off, but it wasn't really around in the UK. I ended up watching it on a German channel via Astra Satellite dishes. So I'd watch these German Beetlejuice cartoons that were already quite bizarre in their look, but I would watch them with German dubbing and be like, I don't know what's going on in this.
I think a lot more people now know the animators because Chef actually released a box set of it.
Exactly, yeah.
On DVD. So probably a lot more people know of it now. But when it came out, it was very unknowable to a lot of people unless you're in America.
Yeah, it was a Saturday morning kids show out in America, whereas here it didn't have. You know, again, we had so little channels that they could be picky about what they bought. And a BeetleJuice cartoon probably wasn't a huge sell, but we were still. That would have been around about the time of the Turtles phenomenon. So they wanted things that were more like the Ninja Turtles than.
And Count Dracula and all that.
Yeah, exactly. And my girlfriend, I think it's known in Italy. My girlfriend's Italian, but she hadn't. It's funny. It's a big Tim Burton fan. Like Edward Scissorhands is one of her favourite films. She hadn't been particularly exposed to the original Beetlejuice, so to watch that film with her in preparation for the sequel, to see if she wanted to watch the sequel for the first time, was interesting because you would go, how is she going to get this? And she totally did. She absolutely got it the way I did when I was first time. She really loved it and was not only wanting to see the sequel but excited to see the sequel. So yeah, I it's, you know, it'd be very convenient for me. The Simpsons is another one of something that when I initially watched it, I went, yeah, this is fine, and I particularly love it. And then with each passing week and day, it grew to be something I absolutely loved. And my room was a shrine to The Simpsons, as you'll remember.
Oh, I remember.
And the Beetlejuice was following very close. So anything back then I could lay my hands on to do with Beetlejuice, I would buy or collect. And yeah, so when this sequel was announced, I was scared and excited. Scared for all the reasons that you can imagine, because making a 36-year-old film in a different time.
Well, for me, watching the film again, because I had the 4K, I remember watching it originally and just not paying much attention to it because I was like, what's going on in this film? This film's because I remember always really loving Gina Davis and Alec Baldwin's first part. I always thought that part was amazing.
Obviously, for me,
I always loved that. And I always loved the bit as well with the dog, you know, when they end up falling in, right? On the carpet. I always loved that. I loved the whole transition, you know, all this, the family moving in. But then I remember when Beetlejuice eventually turned up in the first one, I just zoned out because I was like, okay, I was like they've taken the good movie and they've made it terrible. That was that, right? Now I like the film a lot more, but I think I prefer the second one.
Oh, that's great to hear.
But I think that might be because the generation thing, like because you were young when you saw it, and I didn't see it then, and so I saw this one now. It's probably that part because I think it's that difference. I think if I'd seen it as a kid and really got into it, I think I'd have loved it, like I do, you know, like ninja films and all this other stuff where girls would hate now.
What's scary for me is, would I have got into it if my options had been as wide as they are now as well?
That's
and would I have gone to rediscover it? And you know, so I always liked it. And it's funny, a lot of films I watched. The other one that stuck in my head is Jonathan Demme's Something Wild, which is a great film. Yes. I watched that as a 12-year-old. I was like, what is this film? It's not a comedy. It's not a thriller. I don't like this at all. And of course, now it's one of my favourite films. I think it's
That's the Ray Liotta film, right?
Ray Liotta, yeah, fantastic. Yeah, really brilliant film, but very odd in tone. And so you know, and it's funny that a lot of I do wonder how many kids who bypassed BeetleJuice. I think every UK kid bypassed Pee Wee Herman, so we didn't have him over here, so we didn't see Pee Wee's Big Adventure. So how many people just moved their chess pieces from straight away past Pee Wee and BeetleJuice and went straight to Batman? And I wonder how many people were like, "We love this," or we're looking over their shoulder and go, "Everyone else seems to love this." I guess because
it's a bit like when you think about it. If you think about Ghostbusters, right? Ghostbusters was really big over it, right? And so it made a lot of people's lives differently in some way because it affects them. Me, I've never had a personal relationship with Ghostbusters at all.
Yeah, mine came much later with that. I was a Gremlins kid, loved Gremlins, still do, of course. But yeah, everything Gremlins, Back to the Future, Gremlins, and everything else Back to the Future.
That's because you don't tell people this, but you had a thing for the female Gremlin.
I did. And it's
because you had a little toy you used to play with. Do you remember?
Hey, you live in the UK now, you'll know everyone looks like the female Gremlin. So it's completely
They do. It's true.
Hey, tell you. You're right. So yeah, that's a great thing about it. It's just come in on that. It's like you had a thing for the female Gremlin. So any art discussion that he proclaims in the touch is going to go out the window with that statement.
You know, we did stand around in your flat at one point looking at the detail on it, even though it was like this big.
Yeah.
But so for me, BeetleJuice was a bit foreign to me when I was a kid because
there's something else I wanted to ask you as well, and I've saying it for the chat, is that if all, like you and I used to spend ages and ages talking about film, and in your case specifically horror, but I've never asked you this statement, which is really weird, bearing in mind that you love horror. How do you feel about Tim Burton films? Because you've never ever talked about a particular Tim Burton
that's a good point, actually. That's a really good point because they're very strange films in a way because unlike horror films, they kind of make this whole world, and the world is its own world constantly when you watch these movies. Like when you watch Edward Scissorhands, for instance, it's a whole world. It isn't just like in a horror movie, you're going through the motions, it's done. And even though they are kind of horror in a way, they're kind of like, it's a really hard thing to explain. They're very like subtle, even though they're not subtle, but you can see the horror there, but at the same time you feel comfortable within the settings. You feel comfortable within the characters. Even when the characters are scary, you kind of feel for them, and you don't feel that in a lot of horror movies. And you know, would I count them as horror films? No, I wouldn't, not really. But I'd count them as more dark, kind of goth with slight horror elements to them. But I would classify them as masterpieces of world building. And I would say that if you had to go into any world and you wanted to feel it, you'd go, okay, Tim Burton world is livable no matter where you go in the movie. You'd feel livable.
I think David Lynch is the other, because even strong filmmakers like David Cronenberg, I would say, you know, their films can be very different in terms of world building. You can, I've been doing a lot of stuff at work recently with Ken Russell, and it's interesting. Ken Russell films, I should say, because Ken Russell's passed. But yeah, you watch you kind of know you're watching a Ken Russell film in 5 to 10 minutes of watching it. But Ken Russell made a lot of different films. What's Star saying? Now, Malk, you'd have a relationship with him. Ghostbusters fan. Yeah, it's true. That's true. I remember those videos. Malcolm used to do a video. Was it James, the name of the fellow?
James.
Love
technically, we should say Janet because he's, you know.
Oh, he identifies.
I'm going to technically say, as much as I say James, I'm going to say Janet to be polite because I know what he's going through at the minute. Just to be polite because I don't want to come off as being horrible to him. You didn't know that, so Mark didn't know, so that's not on Mark at all.
No, I really didn't.
Burton always says great use of mise en scene, much like Del Toro does with his films, although different things. That's true. Del Toro is another example of worlds you feel you could easily live in. That's a perfect example.
I wonder, I rewatched The Addams Families recently, the Barry Sonnenfeld Addams Families, and I can't help thinking, no disrespect to Sonnenfeld, who was doing a lot of strong cinematography prior to those, but without without Tim Burton, would there be Heathers? Would there be? I think Heathers may have coexisted because it was a small New World film, but definitely Addams Family and commercial films and tone. Tim
Well, I
Burton.
understand it comes from the old TV show.
It does, but the way those films are staged, it feels very much like.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a world again that they've crafted for these characters to exist in. So yeah, Tim Burton really owes a lot to cinema, which is why he's still beloved, to a whole different generation who know him from like his TV stuff like Wednesday. He's still very beloved and deservedly so. So before we move on to the meat and potatoes, what's your favourite Tim Burton film?
My favourite Tim Burton film was probably always been Edward Scissorhands.
Okay, I thought you'd say Sweeney Todd. So I'm surprised.
No, do you know I've never watched it?
Oh wow, that's why. Yeah, I think if
I've owned it. I've only bought it twice. I've never watched it.
It's really good. It's not my favourite. I think, those. I mean, he pretty much. I've never seen Pee-wee's Big Adventure actually. In terms of Paul Schofield.
Cobb's Bride's one as well, isn't it?
Sorry,
Cobb's Bride's one as well, isn't it?
Yeah, Cobb's Bride. Yeah, he did that because a lot of people say Nightmare Before Christmas, and that's an interesting.
Oh, Sleepaway Hollow. That's another one. Alex said Sleepaway Hollow is really good.
I mean, this is the thing. You could name drop. Nightmare Before Christmas. He actually co-made with a guy called Henry Selick. Although Tim Burton was for it. Yeah, me too. He pretty much hit the ground running with all the films that he made after BeetleJuice. He didn't really produce a film that made everyone go. Even Mars Attacks, which is largely one of the more forgotten ones, if not forgotten entirely, is still a great film. He was definitely.
I remember the 90s. I remember the 90s when Mars Attacks was massive.
Yeah.
Everybody watched it. Everybody thought, what an incredible movie. Now you don't hear much about it at all.
And a shout out for Ed Wood, which is a great film, which I would hope everybody is. Because Ed Wood
just to go on, you say what you're saying, I'll say what I was going to say.
Ed Wood is one of the ones that's considered a bit artsier and a bit more, different to his usual, because it's about it's a true story about obviously the great in quotes filmmaker Ed Wood and his bizarre way of making terrible films. And that's a real great film. So.
Do you know what? Frankenweenie is a classic. I forgot that was one of his films. It kept going in my head.
Frankenweenie was a return to form because he did dilute the formula a little bit. He made the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory film didn't entirely work for me, if I'm honest.
Frankenweenie was based off the short film he originally made years prior.
Yeah, and I thought Frankenweenie felt like a perfect companion piece to his early films. Love Frankenweenie.
What about the Alice in Wonderland movies?
Didn't like that either. The Alice in Wonderland sequel he didn't do, and I haven't seen, but I didn't like the original at all. I thought it was... There was a problem with Johnny Depp, who is an actor I really love, but he seemed to have a shorthand that when he worked with Tim Burton, that he would just... everything would turn into a Johnny Depp vehicle, and I think that really hurt Tim Burton's tone, because it become like a collaborative. Even though I did really enjoy Dark Shadows, but I thought it was too much of a vehicle for the two of them. So
I didn't like Dark Shadows. Oh, it was just telling us about films that it'd like to see on UK Blu-ray soon.
Yeah. So we'll tap in the chat maybe when we finish.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. If there's any questions not to do with what we're talking about, we'll answer them at the end.
Save them up. Just so we keep on thread. Otherwise, we'll go from one.
No, just to finish, what I was going to say about Edward Scissorhands. To me, that film's really great, and it's another one of those worlds where you just feel like you could walk around in it for like months, and you just would feel like. And I think when you can make a world like that, especially if you do it in one film, it just makes that film feel so much more alive in your head. A bit like when you look at Snow Globe when you were a kid. You look at Snow Globe and you see all these kind of houses now, and you shake it, and you're like, what's going on in those buildings? And that's what that's like when watching it.
Something I've discovered recently about Edward Scissorhands is it has kind of, but not, which is why you've heard about it, an unofficial sequel. It has like a 2-minute Apple ad with Timothy Chalamet as Edward Scissorhands' son. and we know the ride and in their life over the top, and how difficult it is for him to be Edward Scissorhands Jr. And it's actually, I don't really like adverts, and I especially don't like when they take something I love and turn it into an advert. But it's sweet, and Timothy Chalamet as Edward Scissorhands' son, of course, is inspired. What he look like? Yeah. You know, and you can find it on YouTube. So anyone who really loves
I know a lot of people watched that and they thought it was a hint for a new movie.
Yeah. I didn't even know about it. So, but yeah, so
his short film Vincent from 1982 is surprisingly good for 6 million runtime. It is good, actually. Yeah, I've seen it a while, but I remember. I think the one that's narrated by
Vincent
Price.
Yeah, lovely. Was this you coming back to BeetleJuice 1988 after a long period then?
Yeah, basically I hadn't seen it since I was a kid. So it'd been a long time. And some of the effects I found in the first one that weren't as good, but it was 1988, so you have to give it, things for that. You know what the sand thing? You know what the sandworm thing reminded me of? The sand, worm thing. It reminded me of something out of bloody, like Ren and Stimpy or something, from the day.
I never thought about it. Yeah.
Or real monsters because of the thing. But yeah, it was a long time. I was surprised actually because watching it now, I liked it a lot more. But yeah, I like this film more. It just surprised me because I mean, I just. I thought after a while I was going to be like, I'm probably going to have mixed views of it, but yeah, I like it.
It's lovely to have contrasting opinions because Julia. So we got three kind of examples here. My partner who hadn't seen the film before, watched it for the first time recently. Me who saw the film over and over again throughout the years, could probably speak along with the dialogue, and you who saw it when you were a kid and revisited it, and so we've all come in with fresh opinions on that. And it was so going into that, the BeetleJuice was kind of like, am I going to love this or am I going to hate it? And I have to say, I'm quite lucky that I get to work around the IMAX in the UK in Waterloo, so they had IMAX screenings of it, and to just hear that theme strike up in IMAX with the Donna. So to talk briefly, in the first film, for those who don't know, I'm sure a lot of people have seen both of these films now, but yeah, there's a huge standout sequence which involves the characters being possessed and lip syncing to Deo by Harry Belafonte, the Ballad of Bones. And in this, they replaced that with a song called MacArthur Park, which we'll talk later. So they do something quite clever because in the original BeetleJuice, the echoes of Deo play over the opening logos. It's kind of like an eerie echo. And they do the same thing with Donna Summer's version of MacArthur Park over the logos in the sequel. So to hear that and just to hear the deep bass kick in of the BeetleJuice kind of thing, my skin, and even now repeating it, went cold. So I was like, oh, this could be amazing. Just based on the fact it hasn't even started yet. And I'm hearing the music flooding out of these speakers in IMAX, and I'm already thinking I will love it. And my end relationship with it when we talk about it. So I watched it twice, firstly, which is a big clue. And I've got a T-shirt with it on, which is another great example. So you would go, did you love this film more than Malcolm? And the answer was yes and no. There was a lot about it I loved, and there was a lot about it that I'm like, what? Why? And that in itself is a bizarre statement because the whole character of BeetleJuice represents anarchy. He behaves in a way that's not grounded in either reality or in correct behaviour. And we are now about to pick this film apart and say what we thought did work and what didn't. And the whole nature of this film, a lot like the sequel to Gremlins 2, was anarchy. It was like, let's just do what we want and let's just be nuts. Let's have Monica Bellucci pop up as his bride for just a handful of scenes and possibly not do anything with it, and there was a lot of that going on in this, a lot of lack of discipline with the approach this time around that definitely was different the first film. The first film was very much like, everything that happened in that very surreal film was relative to the plot. And in this film, there's lots of stuff happening that isn't particularly relevant to the plot. To me, my biggest criticism of it was, and I've never read anything that backed this up. As a matter of fact, I've read many things that contradict it. But because the writers of BeetleJuice were the guys who did great work for Tim Burton's Wednesday series, which I haven't seen, but everyone really loved. And because of his work on Wednesday, he approached them to do the BeetleJuice film, not the BeetleJuice series, but the BeetleJuice film. But
yeah,
that
they
means
also did. They also did Smallville, and they also did some other stuff as well.
So they come from TV writing, which I think definitely explains my problems with BeetleJuice. A lot of plots that would have worked wonderful for an 8-episode TV series, they really scramble about in the film. They're like, there's a lot in the film that I'm like, why haven't you even included this character? You're not going to do much with him, and you can't because of time. And there's a lot of that.
Like Danny DeVito's character. What a waste of a great possible character.
Well, there's a lot of great characters in it, including Dolores, played by Monica Bellucci, who's BeetleJuice's wife. But their stories are kind of glossed over, rushed over. It's almost, to repeat a film I name dropped earlier, I would imagine in Police Academy, every cadet had his own story. You know, like Tackleberry wanting to shoot a gun, or like Hooks wanting to, have a voice heard or whatnot.
Yeah.
And it's not like every character in this film is like got their own sort of story and stuff.
It's funny because in a way you can compare BeetleJuice 1 and BeetleJuice to Hellraiser 1 and Hellraiser 2. Because BeetleJuice 1 is mostly set in a house and the world, right, within BeetleJuice's thing. But there's only slight areas. When you get to Hellraiser 2, you've got the whole of Leviathan, which is basically the whole of, the Death World area.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got a few scenes outside of it, like where Winona Ryder's at the TV studio. You've got Dr. Channard's hospital. So you could compare them, especially considering Hellraiser and BeetleJuice, the first one, actually came out around the same time.
That's a good, yeah. And for me, it felt a lot like Gremlins. Gremlins 2 was a deliberate cartoon. Gremlins 2, the new batch. Joe Dante had said, I don't want to remake Gremlins, so I'm just going to make a completely different film. And BeetleJuice, so the things I loved about the film, which vastly outnumber the things I didn't, we are living in a time now, at the point that we're recording this video, that there's been this huge correct reaction to the lack of justice in casting and representation, women's stories of people of colour. And what we're seeing as a result of that in 2024 is a lot of kind of films where that's being forced into the mix, whether it's fluid or not. And what's great about BeetleJuice is this is a film which Burton and Keaton, Michael Keaton, who plays BeetleJuice, has said is about generations of women within a family. And it doesn't feel shooting at all. It feels like a natural progression of the story rather than executives saying to Burton and the writers, could you put more women in it, please? It actually feels like it's a right version of the right story to tell. So, that is a great asset in its bow.
I'm really happy to see more blue people in it.
Yeah, exactly. There are more blue people totally in the
Bob and all his friends.
Yeah.
See them, I mean, don't discriminate against small heads and big bodies.
And everybody's back for it with two. I mean,
which is impressive. Even the minor characters are back.
Yes, or they're represented. Because one of the biggest criticisms I had was answered today in preparation for this video. I rewatched some online stuff, and there was lots of little missed things that irritated me, that felt like they were deliberately disregarding the original film. And when I watched that, what I read today was like, Tim Burton said, I didn't rewatch BeetleJuice. One of the key sequences in the film involves a character referencing the first film, putting themselves back together. They basically are in pieces and they sew themselves back together.
I love that music in that scene.
And again, I want to talk about music because that's very different in the sequel. In the first film, you have that character's finger in the finale. Do you remember? says, "Oh, you know," and it's to do with a wedding sequence at the end of that film. So yeah, you kind of when that reanimation sequence of the person sewing themselves back together comes into play, you would go, "Oh, okay, so now they're going to do a joke about the missing finger," and they don't. And that kind of little lack of detail said, "Wow, you really don't care about the first film."
Yeah, the fact that it's just there on the floor with her, it's a bit.
Yeah, there was a lot of that I found. There was a lot of lack of regard. So straight away, regardless of what they say, the writers of Burton couldn't find. They knew that they didn't want to include the characters from the first film, that Victoria, Barbara, and Victor Maitland, because they were ghosts. This is Alec Baldwin, the Gene character. And whilst Michael Keaton's Beetlejuice could be covered in makeup and disguise the fact he's older, they couldn't do that with the two characters that Davis and Baldwin played. So they knew that they couldn't find a way to write them out. So they make a joke of it in the script. They literally have characters saying, "Oh, they're gone because of a loophole," and another character saying,
"Well, it doesn't help either." But it doesn't help by doing that time as well. He was in trouble, wasn't he, for that whole gun shooting thing on that set?
Yeah. I mean, there's a bit behind the scenes stuff we'll get into, but you know, in terms of actors who aren't part of this one. But yeah, the fact that that feels like a lazy. It's good that they address it with a joke. That they go, "We don't know how to write this loophole, so we're just going to make a joke about it." Literally have a character say, "That's convenient," you know, as in like, "Yeah, this is what the audience are thinking," and they haven't got the answer they wanted, and neither have we as the characters in the film. But yeah, there was little things like that. But Burton has made a conscious decision, as you can read about, to go, "Look, I don't want to tick boxes. I don't want to do what people expect." I critiqued the Force Awakens Star Wars film for a similar thing of just remaking the first film, and you can't levy that complaint at this film because it's definitely marching to the beat of its own drum. And there is stuff that references the first film, like one of the characters' the funeral in the film, and they play Deo as a choir piece, which obviously is a big set piece of the first film. It ends with a wedding, like the first film did. But yeah, it feels weird that those little details were missed, and it kind of bothered me just because it felt like there wasn't a respect for the first film.
Yeah, kind of like the TV Bible thing. They didn't look back on it, and it kind of hurt it more than it should have.
Yeah. But at the same time, you're talking about a disrespectful character from a 36-year-old film in the new world. You go, what did you think about this sequel? It's going to be respectful. You know, the whole way we made the first film was just, you know, anarchy, and why would we not do that again? It was kind of, you know, definitely wanted. Yeah. Its ideas were very strong, but not necessarily the plot that linked them all together. But that's not such a bad thing when it's as entertaining as it is, you know, because you're never bored. BeetleJuice. It doesn't have pacing.
No, I would say with this one, it's more aimed, I would say, at the modern audience with the movement, because there's always something new, as you said, with the whole thing, and because there's always something new, you don't know what's going to happen. And like when the story of Jenna Ortega happens in the thing, and all of a sudden they're taking her to the Soul Train, and the Soul Train is basically, literally, the Soul Train with dance and everything. Yeah. It makes you look up and go, "Huh?" And you're looking and you're going, and because that, you're like, "What's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? What's going to happen next?" Monica Bellucci, I do think, was completely wasted in the movie. Stunning, Monica Bellucci, incredible character.
Tim Burton's, you know, there's politics that have got there. Like, I want to be in this. Like, a lot of the film did feel like people going, "I'd like to be in this." Like Danny DeVito's character, he's briefly in the scene as a janitor. Very, very good scene. Danny DeVito has frequently been in Burton films since Batman Returns, so to get his friend in to do one short scene, I completely get that. But then with Monica Bellucci's character, who's basically Beetlejuice's ex-wife, it felt like they wanted to do a Mario Brava homage sequence, and then they wanted Monica Bellucci to be in it, and because Bellucci was Italian, they went, "Oh, we'll sew these together." And then with Monica Bellucci, they come up with a reanimation sequence for her, which is very good. And then they kind of go, "Okay," and her story is, it's like, "Oh, after that, well, she's pursued."
Well, it's weird because when he's introduced, it's like the perfect villain start. Like, you know, grabs A DeVito, she sucks him literally out of air. All right. then she disappears, and then you're like, what's going on? And then it goes, like you said, it jumps up around and all this, and then the whole main story is basically the bit, for the most part, Jenny Ortega's part, with trying to get her back and all this, BeetleJuice's help and that. And you're like, these feel like, as you said, they feel like they could have been cut up into like 10, 15-minute episodes and put up. Because
there's nothing. Oh, it was a TV series. Nothing, everything counteracts that. But it seems to be written within the structure of a multifaceted series where everyone got their own story, and then we've got to take all those stories and make a 108-minute film out of it.
Well, you know, another character that's wasted in the movie who's brilliant is William Dafoe.
Yes, yeah. I seem to be spending a lot of time watching Dafoe in the cinema recently, just by choice. You know, he's in this film, which I want to see.
All I kept thinking is, I can't remember the guy's name, but he's been in a lot of films. Other people will know him. The guy who played the Reverend.
Yeah.
All I kept thinking was, this guy would make a perfect young version of William Dafoe in a movie.
Yeah. Maybe that'll come out now for them working together, because they're in the final scene together as well. And I mean, the one thing we haven't talked about is the story, and it's funny because we are talking about the story and why we're not talking about the story. There's a lot going on, but just in a nutshell, it picks up with Lydia now, and you realise she's a host of a TV show that very much ties into the things she experienced in the first film. She's in a relationship with a guy called Rory, played by Justin Theroux, who
Who's Ruth's brother, in case people don't know.
He is, and he's a writer as well. He wrote the Charlie's Angels films. He's a performer as well. He's in Charlie's Angels Full Throttle as one of the villains. But yeah, he's basically her manager, and you know, he seems a bit of a suspicious soul, very much kind of on side for Lydia and her family, but seems to be pushing another agenda as well. She's estranged from her daughter, who's played by Jenna Ortega. And what happens is
because of the husband, because her father died, didn't he?
Exactly. That's right. Yeah, good point. Winona Ryder and her father, their characters obviously had a daughter, and her father disappeared. And because she's not able to communicate, she basically doesn't believe that her mum has paranormal abilities, because if she did, she'd be able to talk to her father, who's not alive anymore, and that's basically estranged the two. So it's been a very conscious decision to make Astrid, who is Jenna Ortega's character, almost like a young Lydia in terms of her, dislike of the world, suspicion of it. And then a death happens within the Dietz family. A character from the first film dies, and they're all basically thrown together again. And coupled with this, BeetleJuice keeps reappearing, and anyone who's seen the first film will know that BeetleJuice has an unhealthy interest in Lydia. So Lydia does not want to see BeetleJuice at this low point in her life. And the fact that he's reappearing at this point, that she has to return home and deal with all the death of the family stuff, and the fact that her partner Rory is using this as an opportunity to pin her down to further the relationship as well, means that all that is going on. But that's not where the plot stops. The plot, involving BeetleJuice, his dead wife basically pops up on the scene, and she's stalking BeetleJuice in the underworld, which leads a policeman called Wolf Jackson, who's William Dafoe's character.
He was an actor, not a policeman. Just exactly, actor, not a policeman, but he keeps acting like a policeman because he died acting as a policeman.
He acts basically like those cops in the bad TV shows we grew up with, which is fun. And he's basically trying to solve this case. In the meantime, people might be asking, well, where's BeetleJuice himself? Is he only just being seen by Lydia? No, he's mulling around in the afterlife running some sort of agency. He's basically stepped into where the caseworker character was in the first film. He's not very happy, and he basically is still sort of bumbling around, and he finds an opportunity to get back in Lydia's life because of all this turmoil. Yeah. And then it doesn't stop there either, because there's another story where Astrid basically forms a kinship with this neighborhood boy who's got a loner character called Jeremy, and he basically sits on the same wavelength as as Astrid. And keep up, everybody, a lot of names, a lot of characters. And he is also hiding a secret, which is far more than his affection for Astrid. So yeah, a lot.
And you also forgot the Bob storyline as well.
Yeah. So the shrunken head character from the first film, who plays a prank on BeetleJuice at the end of the '88 film, now is a reoccurring character with his army of identicals that basically follow around in the background. And they all escape into the real world at a point in the film. We never find out what happens.
Bob is supposed to be BeetleJuice's, what was it, a bodyguard / like impersonator.
Yeah.
You know, and none of happens other than him hiding under the table when she turns up.
Yeah, and and also you've got to remember all of these characters have their own stories as well. So Delia, played by Catherine O'Hara, basically loses someone close to her, and so she basically is going through her own grief and whatnot, and she ends up making this kind of cartoonish mistake, which was her fate as well. So yeah, at no point does the film slow down and go too much. And then we've got a character from the first film, Jeffrey Jones, who isn't in this film, but because he's an important character, they need to reference him. Jeffrey Jones has quite a troubled personal life, and certainly
the sad part. One way the sad part about Jeffrey Jones, which people can look up, is before we found out what he'd done. Phenomenal actor, really great in the roles like Howard the Duck and that. You know, exactly. Brilliant guy in acting, in that sense. So to find out the troubles he's had and caused, horrendous, not going to talk about, but people can look it up easily. And that's why he's not in the film.
Yeah, and so they've got to write a story for him as well, and they've got to tell that story without using the actor.
With the claymation, I love that.
Exactly, but there's a lot, and it almost feels like you know everybody's critical. I mean, people who love the film have said there's too much in this film. There's too many plots, but it feels like Burton and the writers went, yeah, we kind of wanted that. In the same way that Gremlins 2 is like, let's just do everything and see what people.
And don't forget, Lydia had a baby.
Yeah, there's a baby in it as well. Yeah, there's a baby character, not dissimilar to the picture behind me, who crops up in dream sequences and you know, and whatnot. So yeah, this film is very undisciplined. At no point is anybody working on this film going, is this a bit much? Do we have too many people? But yeah,
it feels very manic, very surreal, but it feels perfectly fun. It's really weird. There we go. I enjoyed the final part. I saw a piece for the cinema during Halloween. We've rewatched Relief, but it felt like a series of big nets more than anything. It did.
Yeah.
It felt like, you know what it felt like? It felt like if you put on a series of Beavis and Butthead, but with BeetleJuice instead. Between things. Like you go, oh, this is fun. Like they could have made the Bob one its own kind of show. They could have, you know, everything.
The other weird thing
makes it fun.
The other weird thing is that Michael Keaton and Tim Burton said they didn't want too much BeetleJuice in it because there's not too much BeetleJuice in the first film. Well, I would say the first film, without to pretend I'm a filmmaker, the first film, there's a lot of mystery behind who BeetleJuice is and what he is. And by the time the mystery is out the bag, so you don't have to hold him back so much anymore. But they made a conscious effort to not show BeetleJuice so much in this film as well. And you kind of would have go, well, why? You know, Michael Keaton's still able to play him. I think, you know, you definitely want to focus on the generational story of the three Deets women, but not to the extent. I would have much rather that they took out some of the characters. There's a lot of brilliant actors in those characters as well. The young actor who plays Jeremy is great. I think he's a Stranger Things actor. I could have got that wrong. But yeah, there's a lot of great actors in this, but they just William Dafoe as well. I would have rather they be moved to a further film or a firm adventure, just keep everything a little tighter. But then this is the bit the writers and Tim Burton might tap me on the shoulder to go, but you're laughing and you're enjoying it, aren't you? I'm like, yeah. And they go, so why do you care if there's too much going on? Too much going on is far better than too little. And I'm like, yeah, I guess you're right.
one of the things I really liked about this film was the bit where it shows Dolores killed him, and how he was just as disgusted in life as he was when he died. I just loved it.
I want you to talk about that because that's a Mario Brava. We've been skating around that reference, and that's the other thing is, did the original Beetlejuice do anything that homaged other films? Or probably in lines and set design, but Tim Burton is like, screw all that. For this film, I'm actually going to stop the film. Again, it reminded me of another sequel, Crank 2, where they went, we want to do a claymation Godzilla homage, and it's like, how will that fit with the plot? I don't know, and I don't care. We're just going to do it anyway. And there was a lot of things in this film where they went, so we want to do a whole scene like Mario Brava, and it's like, right, why? That's not Beetlejuice. Like, well, we're going to, and we're going to do a claymation scene as well. And, and we're going to have.
I just loved the bit where she said, "I gave birth to you with Kill Baby Kill One." Like,
right, yeah.
Okay, that's. But then that's totally a Lydia thing when you think about the character.
Yeah.
Because the more depressing it was, the more happy it made them.
Yeah.
You know, the original one. So, yeah, I think it's so good. I think it's great that they did that. I mean, you could say that. I mean, there's quite a few homages in this movie, and a couple of English actors as well from soaps. Now, you know, a lot of people don't like soaps being brought up, but I think it's Amy Nuttall. She was in Emmerdale.
Yes, she's playing the daughter of the estate agent character in from the first film. So there is reference to the first film, but there seems to be like, I don't really see how it would have done Burton any harm rewatching the first film, or at least reading the script for the first film to work out little bits that he wanted to weave in. But it seems to be a conscious decision on his part to not do
laziness.
And it's resulted in a huge hit film. You know, BeetleJuice performed very well.
On a side note, for people follow Aaron, right? Aaron Pin, in case people don't know, Tim Burton's going to be in Marrakesh at the film festival.
Oh, right? Lovely!
So he might be meeting him soon.
Good stuff.
Yeah. So I'd add that in there when we talk about Tim Burton. I'm calling Tim Burton lazy.
Monica Bellucci's his wife, so you could end up meeting Monica Bellucci as well.
Yeah, so. She's there as well. She's there as well.
Fantastic. But yeah, I watched it twice for two reasons. One, because I wanted to see if I could resolve some of the issues I have with it, because I ended up loving it so much that it was only this niggling, kind of like finger wagging Jiminy Cricket on my shoulder, talking about the things that didn't work very well. And the second reason was I just wanted to hear that music again in IMAX. Because that Beetlejuice theme is just such a brilliant piece of Danny Elfman scoring, mischievous and menacing, and he had a challenge with the second one because so Warner and Burton did a very brave thing with the marketing. They used the Beetlejuice theme very sparingly because you could think that a trailer for BeetleJuice could just be that music and Beetlejuice doing his thing. And straight away, we were introduced to trailers with like Bee Gees music playing through it and nothing to do with Beetlejuice at all. So you wondered when you went to see the second film, how much of the first film's score they recognised. And the answer is enough, but not nearly enough, I thought. But they redid the theme in really a grandiose, brilliant way that didn't feel like overkill, but still evolved it and kept it on way. A lot of electronica sounds are in the theme for the second Beetlejuice, even though it's a reprise of the theme from the first one, and they complement it and evolve it rather than disgrace it. And no one wants to hear a dance techno theme of their favourite film. You know, no one wants to be like hearing like Halloween, the disco mix or something, you know, by John Carpenter. So there was a danger that you could ruin it. For me, which leads into what you were saying earlier about choices in music, I thought there was too much source music in the sequel, whereas the first one used it very carefully.
Yeah, they used it appropriately in different spots. As this one, it felt like you said, it felt like every now and again you were going to get a music video starting.
Yeah. I don't. I'm not talking about the part for part, which is its own conversation, which we'll include later. I'm talking about the fact that when Lydia rides through the so many names. When Astrid rides through the town after an argument with her mother, instead of hearing some Danny Elfman score, which accentuates this, we hear some grungy type pop song on our headphones instead, which is a bad song. Well, it's not a bad choice of music. It definitely fits the character, but it definitely reminds everybody, oh, we're not redoing what we did in the first one. Just so you know, we're not going to try and recreate the first one. A, because I haven't watched the first one to re-familiarise myself with that style, and B, because I've made 20 plus films since BeetleJuice in 1988, and my style has evolved with each one. I do use source music a lot more now, and but for the most part, it works. I mean, the Bee Gees' Tragedy song doesn't belong in a Tim Burton film at all. It's completely the wrong type of music.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense at all. I was like, what the hell?
Because it's a feel-good piece of music, and yet it works brilliantly in that scene. It shouldn't, and it works. And that's Burton taking chances, and okay, this could undo it, and it because that theme, that Bee Gees piece of music, you're talking about the Bee Gees music synonymous with Saturday Night Fever, and you can't get further away from what Tim Burton does in that. But it's definitely an embrace of let's try things. We're not all sure they'll work. So it's
I think that stops it from getting boring. I mean, it's risky, and at times it makes you go, "What the hell is this?" But it stops it from being boring. It stops you from going, "Oh, this is a dated character that no one's going to care about now." I do think there's possibly a third one, but what's going to end up coming out, and I think it's going to be based on the baby as well.
You said that because what struck me as interesting is Burton saying, no plans to do a third one. It took me this long to do this one, so take that what you will. And one of the things we did talk about is the fact anyone who's familiar with Kevin Smith will know that this has not been the first attempt to make a BeetleJuice sequel. That goes back to the early 90s when they were talking about sequels set in Hawaii or even the Wild West, and everybody at the script stage said it's not kind of working. So there was many attempts throughout the years to make a BeetleJuice sequel, but it just didn't come to pass.
BeetleJuice.
Say again?
Was BeetleJuice in the animated series?
No, there is an animated episode where I think BeetleJuice regresses to a baby. Again, I'm going back to my 90s memories here, but certainly not as we see him in the film. Can you, Malcolm? I know you can. Name the piece of music used in the ending montage where the baby appears, because that was another thing that Danny Elfman, who's a very accomplished scriptwriter, I think he is, accomplished musician, score writer. They don't use a Danny Elfman piece of music for the end scene. They use
what was it? I can't remember. Donna was talking to me at the time.
I mean, when I watched it, I didn't place it either, but I love the music so much. I went, whatever this piece of music is, you've made me download the soundtrack to the film because I love that piece of score so much, and it's the Brian De Palma Carrie.
There you go,
yeah. And they use it as the end montage, maybe because they use it for temp score, which is most common with filmmaking.
Well, it's great, it makes sense. It actually makes sense using it for that scene.
Well, it's a jump scare moment as well. So, and although the way that music's used in Carrie is not the jump scare scene, it is interesting that I can only imagine that they did it for temp score, and then whatever Elfman tried to write, it doesn't work as well as the Carrie music, so they use the Carrie music. And there's a lot of that the first film wouldn't do. And to people who've asked me prior to this video, should I watch this? I've always gone, you should, but just remember, you're watching a sequel to a 1988 36-year-old film where there was no internet, no mobile phones, no social networking, no influencers, which are referenced in this film as well. I don't like influencers. Sorry.
It must be a really interesting thing from Michael Keaton, because Michael Keaton did Batman recently, in The Flash, and he did this, and they were both technically originally from Tim Burton, right? Mm-hmm. Both the things. The both were things he hadn't done in many years. So to be pulled back into both characters and be playing Batman again in the new Batgirl thing coming out, it must be so weird for him.
Yeah, and it's not through lack of work. For anyone wants to get snarky, Michael Keaton's done solid work films like oh my god, what is it? I was going to say Spotify. It's not Spotify. Spotify, the movie, the rather brilliant newspaper film, which I really loved.
He did The Founder, didn't he? He did The Founder. We did. What's it?
It's such a hard sell because it's like the McDonald's film. No one want to watch that, but it's a real reward for those.
It's a brilliant story.
Yeah, but yeah, so Michael Keaton is consistently working, and it's interesting watching him play up BeetleJuice because the energy's different. There's a couple of things I want to undo that are part of the marketing bunkum that Burton and Keaton are pushing. So one is like, we've kept the character politically incorrect. He doesn't behave in the correct way in the sequel. That's not strictly true. The way the Beetlejuice character behaves in the first film, he's pursuing a relationship with a minor in the first film, or at least a very young girl. So he's pitching with his bottoms, he's grabbing his crutch, and he's sexually harassing every woman that comes near him in the film. And in the sequel, they have to settle for knowing glances. So Wolf Jackson's pretty secretary passes the table, and Beetlejuice's eyes linger on her a bit too long. Delia at some point asks Beetlejuice for help, and he looks her up and down in like a sexually suggestive way. But yeah, it's not the same politically incorrect character that's in the first film. It's definitely been toned down because I don't think you could have Beetlejuice be 100% like he is. And that's not to say they've sanitized him. We've got like 25% Beetlejuice's bad behavior, maybe 40 bad behavior Beetlejuice from the first movie, but definitely. So it's weird. I thought that they should have missed the trick, that they should have basically written more into the writing to complement Keaton's age and his changing energy. It brings a lot of energy to Beetlejuice.
You've got to remember Beetlejuice is old anyway. So it won't make a difference.
They definitely should have put something in the writing that explained why Beetlejuice now is a bit slow and a bit jaded, and maybe he's at a place in his life where he's a little different. Because it doesn't feel like we're watching a carbon copy of the first Beetlejuice in terms of behaviour or attitude, even though Keaton and Burton, and no one I know better than them, I have to say, have said we think it's the same. I'm like, it's not, because you've had to change things because of the 36-year difference. So why don't you write that into the script? You don't have to put the Beetlejuice's age, but you can definitely put that he's had experiences in these 36 years that made him a little different. Maybe he's depressed, maybe whatever, tick the box. The other thing is, you've got to assume in those 36 years, Beetlejuice would have sexually harassed other female victims. So it's a bit weird that he still looks at Lydia as the one who got away, and he still has a picture of only her on his. He's like, wow, he seemed like a sex pest in the first film that would go after anything, And yet after
it's a shame they got rid of it. No, I liked the sex pest version of him.
I thought because Beetlejuice is a negative character that you could have done that, but then there was a whole push to make the film PG-13, and a lot of stuff had to maybe fall by the wayside. And the other thing I want to debunk is that Tim Burton's a big fan of MacArthur Park, a song I've mentioned a few times, because it's like used in like the finale of the film. And for anyone who doesn't know about MacArthur Park, I didn't know much. It's like a 1960s, 70s psychedelia song sung by Dumbledore, the first Dumbledore, Richard Harris, not Michael Keaton. No one said that. I'm like, this is Dumbledore here singing this. And it was just a weird piece of like musical history that Richard Harris was he'd just done a musical, and he said, I want to be a pop star. I don't know what to do. And they kept trying with these different songs. And in the end, they tried with this song that they couldn't make work for anyone. It worked really well for him. And, and my reference point for that was Jurassic Park, not Steven Spielberg's Jurassic Park, but the Weird Al Yankovic parody song, Jurassic Park, which used to play a lot on music television in the 90s. And it's basically MacArthur Park. Anyone who knows Weird Al knows his thing is he gets a traditional song and writes his own spoof lyrics to it. So he turned MacArthur Park into Jurassic Park, and then flawlessly sung the plot of Jurassic Park to the tune of MacArthur Park. And
Paradise, and Amish Paradise.
And Amish Paradise, another great one, yeah. And so MacArthur Park is a 7-minute song by Richard Harris. Tim Burton had fallen in love with his songs. He was on the jukebox in his kitchen and said, do you know what? I want the lip-syncing finale a la Deo in the first film to be MacArthur Park. And he says in all the marketing, I use all 7 minutes of that. Not really. You chop it up and you move it around a lot. There's also a huge gap of silence between the finale of MacArthur Park, in which there's some character exposition. So yeah, so the reason why I bring these up is not because of nitpicking, because I did end up loving the final film, but just there's a little bit of marketing bunkum going on in terms of, oh, it's the same, and well, he did this, and you go, you kind of, not quite telling, or maybe you just remember it differently. But yeah, to talk about that now, we've moved on to that. If I had any doubts with all the complications of the plot and all of the characters that this film threw at it, the MacArthur Park sequence at the end was definitely definitely put in there to go, this will win you over. And it completely did. It was everything I love about, the first movie, this sheer nutty idea of characters being possessed and having to perform this absurd song in the middle of this wedding. And what also ties into modern culture, which I don't think was purposeful, but yeah, it's quite a nice side effect of that, is that there's this whole vogue now at weddings all around the world to copy or sing a song. There was the sequence in The Office, the American Office, where Jim and Pam get married and they do this dance. And a lot of weddings have tried to copy that dance. There was a cameo song, I think, back 10 years ago, that everyone was copying that.
Ones.
So yeah, exactly. So now you've got the MacArthur. So it makes you wonder if we're going to get a spate at MacArthur Park weddings. I hope so. But yeah, enough from me, more from you. Things you liked, things you didn't.
I like Bob.
Yeah, I like Bob.
I don't feel like you can do wrong with a character called Bob. I mean, you've got Day of the Dead with the zombie Bob. You've got BeetleJuice with Bob. And I felt sorry for Bob because he shakes, he gets scared. BeetleJuice himself, I thought, was a lot better. I enjoyed the bit where he ends up back in the thing and he's singing to her while she's looking at him and that. I thought that was great.
So again, he's like Burton's going, no, I'm going to reference modern things, which he didn't do in the first movie. That's a gamble. It's
BeetleJuice getting screwed over again was hilarious. With the whole marriage and everything, and I enjoyed the little things that come up, like the father storyline, the Soul Train thing. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed Justin Theroux's character. I thought was as basic as he needed to be, really, because he was just there for the character that he was more than anything else. I enjoyed the stuff with Jenna Ortega probably the most, which is fair because I'm not a big fan of hers anyway. But I enjoyed that.
I'm so in love, not in an unhealthy way, with Christina Ricci's characterization of Wednesday Addams. That even because Christina Ricci is in Wednesday, she's in the series, and Ortega has spoke quite lovingly of Christina Ricci's Wednesday and said, look, I didn't want to mess with that. I wanted to add to it. So, there's a lot of respect there for it. But I'm like, if I want to watch Wednesday Addams, I only want to watch Christina Ricci because she's so brilliant in Addams Family Values that I can't imagine anybody else doing it. And from what I see of Ortega in this, she's a great actress. And I think they've cast possibly the best actress to do Wednesday. But I'm just like, but I like my Wednesday. My Wednesday's,
it's not anything, isn't it? So we all have our versions we like, whether it's the James Bond we like or Adams.
And so seeing her in this, I'm like, oh, she is a star. She's great, and it's great because she's not trying to play Winona Ryder in the first Beetlejuice, which could be a danger. She seems to be doing her own version. She's not kooky and strange. She's acid toned. And
I like as well, but even though she's that way, she's also very naive. And I like that shows very easily. But even though she's a snappy teenager who can't stand Justin Theroux's character, has problems with her mum, she's also very naive and can easily fall for things. And I love that moment as well between her and the family, when they're kind of reunited.
Yeah,
I think that's such a lovely moment in the film because it's such a real, real tender feeling, as Donna would call it.
Mm-hmm. And I thought that, the one of the things I really, because in the first film, Lydia Dietz is never really reproached for her snarky and well, I say snarky, but she's kind of very kooky and off kilter and a little bit kind of dismissive of her family. And at no point in the film does she see really the error of her ways, only through my cat's trying to usurp the laptop. We get a sudden camera angle, that'll be why. But yeah, we never really get any, closure on Lydia learning. She doesn't have a lesson. And in this, Astrid's shown to be wrong. She's shown that her attitude towards her mum and what her mum is trying to be telling her is not correct, and that she kind of, owns up to that and says, yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't understand you more. But there's a lovely, one of the things I think that the reviews do not talk about enough is Catherine O'Hara, who I loved in the first film, but I really loved her in the second film. She has these amazing, she becomes like an artist, as someone who's worked in the artistic community. That's brilliant, because the idea that she's an artist in the first film, but not a successful one. The idea now that she's like an it girl diva artist with all of her money and demands and a diva type behavior is the perfect place where she would be. And O'Hara gets to do broad comedy on a big scale. She has this great scene. She's sobbing outside this school, over dramatizing and delivering this Shakespearean type, melodramatic plea to like her granddaughter, and she's just so funny in it. And I really loved her in it, and she has a lovely scene with her and Winona Ryder's character, Lydia, because they didn't like each other in the first movie, and they still are not particularly linked.
I love that bit where she goes, "Oh, you didn't like me until I got famous." And she goes, "I liked you before then."
Yeah. It's really beautifully written, but it doesn't feel out of place within a Burton script. It doesn't feel like at no point does this film feel saccharine, but there is a lot of love and affection for all the characters in it. And one of the things we haven't talked about is so one of the characters dies in the film, who's had I'm sure a lot of people can guess the character we're talking about because we haven't mentioned him, and the fact that we mentioned him earlier as having quite an upsetting personal life. But it seems to be like, whether they mean it or not, that the creators of BeetleJuice are having revenge on him a little bit, because he's depicted
especially the bit where she goes, "This happened." She goes, "And that's how he died." No. Like that. This how he died. No. And it's like 6 things.
Yeah. And he wasn't a character in the first film like Ofo that people basically wanted to see get a comeuppance. So to watch him in the second film go through like the trials of Job in the afterlife, it's kind of a bit like, wow, you really want to kind of stick 2 fingers up to the actor who played him. That's interesting, because I've not read of anyone who had a bad working relationship with Jeffrey Jones, but just had, just obviously when you read about what he did, it's not defensible. So it's almost like they're trying too hard to be on the wrong side with that one. And I thought that kind of got a bit monotonous. He was used a bit too much after his initial thing. There's something you said before the chat, which I want to hark back to, because I thought it was a really good statement, was you saying that it was good he was in it at all because he's an important character. They didn't just touch away as they did the Maitlands.
Yeah, I really think that. I feel like sometimes as bad as things that someone might have done in their personal life, it's good to sometimes have a part of them in a film if they're such a big character, even if it's not the way it should be originally because of personal reasons. And I liked as well that Kevin Harmer's character, what's her name? I can't remember it.
She's Delia Dietz.
Delia. Right. It's always, I liked it was always about that. And in the long run, because of her obsession with it, she ends up in the situation she does, and she ends up seeing him again anyway.
Yeah.
Not completely. Like, you don't see him completely, but you see him.
Her story,
character.
They give her a very bizarre closure to her story. See, the beauty of the BeetleJuice world is which even I forgot going in, is that if a character dies in the BeetleJuice world, you still see them because they're ghosts. Why would they not be there? And I go, oh, I forgot that, which explains why Astrid has this dislike of her mother because she can't see her father. You know, her father. Lydia can see characters of the afterlife, so she should be able to see her dad. The fact that she can't convinces Astrid that her mum is, you know, full of you know what, and she doesn't want to basically, you know, believe her mother. And so, yeah, and that story's explored as well. There's a lovely twist halfway in with some of the minor characters where something, I mean, the film doesn't have many villains. Even Dolores is quite murderous in her pursuit of finding Beetlejuice. But yeah, it introduces an unlikely one halfway through the film and then dispenses of them very quickly. You know, it kind of like, that's kind of, again, the issues I have with it. Like, it introduces these very strong ideas and then dismisses them. And I still can't help wondering if that's deliberate. That the script writers are going, yeah, we're writing this with a huge sense of anarchy that we want to basically introduce major things and then go. Oh,
what it feels like is it feels like somebody went, okay, let's make a like a thinking thing of all these ideas. Okay, we can't decide. Let's just shove them all together, throw them into like a big ball thing, and then just pour them out and just work on each one as each one comes out.
Exactly. And it makes for a nice thing that you don't see coming. You just don't. Even me telling you this now in the chat, if you watch the film and you haven't seen it, that will come. And you'll be like, oh wow, I think that this didn't seem to set the script.
If you haven't seen it, you're gonna probably either love it or hate it.
Everyone I know, no one has said to me. I spoke to a mutual friend of ours, Jay, and he was very disappointed with it. Thought it was too little, too late. But I've not heard the word hated. And I've not heard the word bad. I've always heard that box then, have you? Exactly. I've heard the words disappointed, but it's hard because I went in the film with a ridiculously high expectation and watched the sequel, the original, the day before. So you know, I should have been set up to fall majestically. Bearing in mind this was always going to be a different film because it's a sequel 36 years later. And Michael Keaton had done early interviews saying he thought it was better than the first film, and you know, or words to that effect. Definitely alluding to the fact that people who love the first film would love this one too. And I would not be as bold as to say that. I would say, look. The first thing is you need to realise the time that's passed between the two, and you need to go in and be open-minded. But all those people out there who are anti-woke and worry that that's affected the film. Even though I talked a little bit about sex pest BeetleJuice being dialed down, they've really got nothing to fear about. There's nothing in the finished product that reeks of political correctness or correcting things. Yeah, they leave some things out and smooth some edges, but they don't introduce like a ghost that you know makes people behave or something like that. You know, there's nothing as crass as that. So
I wish you looked at it. I love the bit when he sees Dolores' picture. Oh, I love that.
I'm going to just take a word from our sponsor. My BeetleJuice.
That's our sponsor.
For those that don't know, Fanta around the world have done like a tie-in with BeetleJuice, which is so weird that any drinks company would want the words BeetleJuice written on their drinks cans. But yeah, and this one is from Italy because basically wherever you go in the world, you get different pictures on the cans. So we have General Ortega on the orange Fanta can here, but in Spain they've got BeetleJuice again. So he's General, not just him.
So different. Someone that made different ones they were.
There are different ones. I tried to get them all. Remember earlier I was talking about collecting on BeetleJuice. It's in the UK. Jenna is on General Ortega. Astrid is on the orange Fanta. The fruity squash one, whatever it's called, has got Lydia, Winona Ryder, and then there's the Delia one, which I've never seen anywhere. I don't know what flavour that is. It must be like grape or something. It's not popular in the UK because I've never seen Delia. I've only seen them online. And then BeetleJuice in the UK got this weird temporary flavour thing that Fanta did. And I've never seen that either. The only time I've seen BeetleJuice on a can is overseas, and my long-suffering has had to put up with me buying them. And I'm gonna crack this one open for you guys now.
Whoa! Taste test.
I've kept the cans.
It's going to taste BeetleJuice's juice.
Exactly. I think they might be culturally significant in it. I don't know if people collect soda cans.
Well, sodas are different. Sodas, no matter where they're from, they taste different in every country.
Well, this is the lemon one from Italy, and it tastes probably a little less tangy than the UK one, if I'm honest.
Because if you buy Coke in any country, because I've had it, they taste so different.
Yeah, I mean, I always do go for my soft drinks when I'm overseas.
I don't know where the Arabic one is. You know what about the Arabic white one?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what that's exactly from, but that always tastes the best.
Okay. But yeah, when I was out in France, BeetleJuice was pretty much the only American film I saw around Paris. The rest were just all French titles, local titles. So it's been quite a worldwide success. And against the odds either, because Burton did a very inadvisable thing of announcing the digital release for Halloween while it was still doing really well in cinemas. Yeah. There was a lot of things that might have hurt BeetleJuice. And it's ended up being, I think it's currently, as of recording this, the 10th highest grossing film of the year, which is a lot less impressive when you read the other films that have made more money. You're like, okay. Okay. It's kind of, this BeetleJuice should have made more money than that. But yeah, it's still.
That's the youth for today.
Well, I haven't seen these movies that have made all this money, so maybe I should,
I reckon this is going to win the Oscars.
I think it might win some. Well, the other thing we haven't talked about is the practical effects. That they made a conscious effort for all you CGI haters out there, and I know a lot of old school horror people particularly don't like CG, that they wanted to do practical effects wherever possible. And having watched some behind the scenes stuff on it, it seems that they've kind of made they've used CGI, but they've only used CGI to erase out strings and whatnot.
Yeah, where they've needed it, like the worm thing. Yeah,
the sandworm sequence, for example, at the end of the film, the sandworm kind of ends up causing destruction in the church. Obviously, that was done in stop motion and whatnot, but to have that sandworm move around and to have characters fly through the air, dancing and waltzing, involves strings and whatnot. So yeah, they've been painting out the CG. But there's a line in MacArthur Park where Richard Harris sings "You Won't Catch Me Looking at the Sun," and at that point BeetleJuice spins round and his eyes have been burnt out by the sun. That's practical effect. It's kind of, you get these very 80s style plastic rubbery kind of effects, and it not CG overdone flaming eyes or anything. Burton. Funny, through not watching the first film, there was a lot of stuff Burton remembered in terms of how he staged the first film and the behind the scenes stuff. It was just a few script details I would have liked. I think, to not write closure for the Maitlands is a bit lazy, and I think they went, everything about this film is kind of anarchistic, and that's going to be part of it. We don't want to embrace convention too much.
Now the question is, are you going to pick up on 4K?
Oh, I already have. I pre-ordered it because it's got quite nice packaging. It's got glow-in-the-dark packaging. It's a real, for those of you who've got home cinema systems out there, you'll find a lot to enjoy in the sound design of it, right down to the opening score. My colleague who got to work with BeetleJuice on release, I didn't, said he would always go in and just listen to the opening 5 minutes because it sounded so great. So yeah, it's a really good looking, good sounding film, and because of that practical effects and non-CG, it'll look really great in 4K as well. You won't get any sort of.
Is it a steelbook?
Yeah, I think it's a steelbook. It hasn't come yet. Weirdly, again, as we're recording this, it's out in America and doing quite well, the home release, but not out in the UK. It follows here in a couple of weeks.
Weird.
This T-shirt is part of a pre-order. So yeah, that's why I've got my BeetleJuice T. I have 4 different BeetleJuice T-shirts now, which is nuts. And every time I see something, the
purple one's the weirdest.
The purple one, which you've seen, is the animated. Yeah, that's my beach shirt. I wear that when I go to the beach because it's really thin, so you won't get hot in it. But yeah, my girlfriend just, whenever I see something BeetleJuice, I always go trot it up to it, end up putting it in the basket. So yeah, there's a lot of collectible stuff on it. Yeah, and it's nice to see this one has been embraced. It's held its own because I don't think a lot of the people watching BeetleJuice were people who necessarily saw the first film in the cinema,
Yeah, that's true.
like a lot of teenagers. That's the key demographic now, to get teenagers to watch this film. And because of the Wednesday series and because of Alice in Wonderland and films that they've grown up with via the Burton estate, well, they've gone in because they know of BeetleJuice. And,
well, Tiger definitely would have got in the younger audience for it, for sure, because, you know.
But again, the casting, it might seem lazy, and I've definitely heard that criticism that Ortega's in it because of Wednesday, the series. And, you know, I'm sure that's how Burton became familiar with casting her in the show. Well, oh, she's really good. But she doesn't, she's not in the film because she can't.
You could say something about Michael Keaton. You could say something in it because he was in the original one.
Well, exactly. I mean, you can't really do that. And there's nothing wrong with the casting in this film at all. You know, a lot of people again have been snarky about Bellucci's involvement because of the fact that she's married to Tim Burton, but she's fine in the film. No one is wrong in this film. It's everyone.
Well, you know, because I understand people being upset with it if she was like taking up every scene, but she wasn't.
Well, anyways, I wish they're giving her more of a story because she kind of lurks in the background committing crimes, but they don't manage to tie that into the plot. You know, Defoe's character. I think the vision for it is that MacArthur Park, for anyone who's listened to that song, knows it's got a lot of extreme highs and crescendos and whatnot. So when you've got characters lip syncing to it, they knew that they wanted this cacophony of nonsense building and building and building to pressure point. So at the end, you've got like a sandworm and BeetleJuice's bullfighting and people are crashing into cakes and the vicar is joining in the lip syncing. You know, it just keeps building and building and building. So I think that they wanted to make a conscious decision to have all of the characters invading the final sequence and all getting some form of sign-off. And I think if they were going to do that, then again, they probably did a wrong foot with disposing of the character who, midway throughout the film, is revealed to be a villain. He's got rid of quite quickly, conveniently, about 20 minutes before the end. And maybe they should have put his story in the finale as well, just to throw all of this stuff in and have all these characters arrive at the church, you know, causing chaos to make me make that build. But yeah, the other thing is BeetleJuice speaks 3 languages in this film: English and Italian.
At one point, I watched it and I was like, something happened to my my video of this.
Yeah. And my partner, who is Italian, I said, "Is this Italian?" Right? Went, yeah, it's perfect. So yeah, it wasn't like they threw cod Italian in; they did it properly. So yeah, and he speaks Spanish towards the end during the bullfight. Again, all things he didn't do in the first film. So you can tell that everyone working on this one is kind of like, yeah, we don't really want to play this film by the rules.
So,
we want to.
So, shall we talk about what the next film's going to be?
Yes, I think we should. They talk about from us or Tim Burton. Have you got any closing comments on this one, actually, before you go away? Would you watch it again, and would you pick up a 4K disc?
I'd watch it again, and I'd pick up 4K, not day one. I'd wait for it to go down, maybe during a sale, just because I've seen it. Once I've seen the film, especially recently, I like to wait a while and pick up cheaper. You know, why would I buy this when I can buy Jaws Revenge on 4K during the Black Friday sales?
Exactly. Proper shark film.
I loved the movie. I thought it was really good. I'd definitely pick it up. And yeah, I'll probably buy it when it's cheap, maybe next year in Black Friday or something. And yeah, I liked it.
And you hope they'll do a third one. You'd be interested to.
I'm hoping they do a third one because I want to see more Baby Jokes.
That's good.
I want to say, Sam, get BeetleJuice and Baby Juice together and make like a Austin Powers style BeetleJuice movie.
Yes. Well, the original ideas for the sequel were like a German expressionist BeetleJuice in Hawaii and a Wild West sequel. You know, like they really wanted to BeetleJuice in environments he didn't belong. So they might do that. I mean, maybe Burton, because the reviews of this film have been quite good, and the audience even better, he might go, okay, so you like me doing my own thing, so I'm going to do that. My worry is that now Johnny Depp is back in public favour, which is no bad. I don't want to get to the specifics of the reason why Depp wasn't in public favour, because that's a very complicated story. I took it in terms of his presence as an actor. He's a very good actor. But yeah, if Depp was involved in the sequel, I might be a little bit like, oh, don't, because I think there's just a shorthand that Depp and Burton fall into together, which doesn't result in their best work.
I'm actually surprised Depp didn't play Jenna Ortega's character in this, to be honest.
Jenna Ortega's character, yeah, of course.
Yeah, I'm surprised that Johnny Depp didn't play her. I would have thought he would have.
If he had, then that character would have been centerpiece of the film. The same way that the Mad Hatter is now inexplicably the lead character in Alice in Wonderland. And that's fine if they give the Mad Hatter a lot to do, but if anyone who's seen Alice in Wonderland is like, you don't really have many ideas for the Mad Hatter, do you? You're just doing crazy stuff, yeah. And I'm interested to see the sequel of that, because it's completely and utterly not Burton. I think Burton produced it. Yeah. I've never got around to see Alice Through the Looking Glass, isn't it? The sequel, it didn't do very well.
Yeah. So the next film we're going to be covering is Last Night in Soho.
I know. I can't remember if we announced that as our next film in our last chat.
We did, right? And then you said let's do BeetleJuice. So I got word to BeetleJuice. For those of you out there in a relationship, my partner's overseas at the moment, and I said I'm going to do Last Night in Soho. I need to watch it again. And I want to watch that again with you. So I'm like, okay, I'll change it to BeetleJuice because you've seen that. So once again, I am in the name of love. Yeah, and to be honest with you, BeetleJuice is quite fresh at the moment because it's out there in the zeitgeist. So we thought it might be a film that you guys want to talk about. You guys have been very quiet during this chat. Did you have any? Yeah, there was a lot of comments, but then it kind of got quiet. I think because people were just enamored with what we were saying. So
I wish I didn't want to shut down anybody who was going off subject, because there were some very interesting questions that were not quite on BeetleJuice, still 4K discs and whatnot. So to pick that up, I'm still waiting for a Blu-ray of Oh Lucky Man, the Lindsay Anderson film, and that one is still not happening.
Because the other two in the trilogy were released, weren't they?
Yeah, I don't know. It's because Oh Lucky Man has a sequence which is unique to the UK version, and you can tell it because when I've watched it digitally, the quality drops for it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, what's going on here? And then I read after watching the film that sequence isn't in the American, so it's a different source. So there might be some mastering issues with it. There's still a lot out there in terms of 4K. The film I really love for 4K is a film that will never come out in 4K now, and it's Barry Levinson's Toys, because that film dark visuals at the end in the factory, and it's candy coloured visuals for the toy factory itself.
Yeah,
it's just made for like 4K, and
that's a movie, but needs a 4K.
Yeah, it wasn't popular on release. I've always loved it, and always felt that it's a great little film. You know, it's tonally an odd film, and definitely not.
Did you pick anything up during the Black Friday sales?
Did some indicator stuff. I picked up Patrick, which I've never seen, but I'm a fan of Susan Penhaligon.
You didn't get Patrick Still Lives. That's the best version.
I have not, no. I was really interested to find out that Patrick was a PG-13 back in the day.
Yeah,
and I'm like, oh, okay. I thought that was like a hard R, you know. I picked up 2 Orphan Vampires, and lots of other just solid indicator titles. I keep blowing Indicator's horn, but Indicator don't overcharge, and it's the reason why I'm happy to support them. I picked up the Confessions box set, the controversial sex comedies from the late 70s. I actually supplied some of the art for that because I collect a lot of Japanese press books. And bizarrely, those films did have a release in Japan, I think all by the last one. So I've actually got a nice credit in the book for helping out with that. My good friend Simon Sheridan. So yeah, and they're lovely transfers.
And why didn't you tell people that you're going to be in the new sequel to Adulthood?
Yeah, Adulthood, Confessions of a
Confessions of an Adulthood, BeetleJuice Berry.
Who would be the demographic for that? What about you? What did you pick up in the Black Friday?
I picked up some films. You'll be happy. I picked some of your favourite movies. Point Break on 4K.
Yeah, Point Break is interesting because I work with the BFI and everyone loves Point Break except me. I don't like that film. I never have. And everyone's like, why? It's so good. And I'm like, yeah, it's always annoyed me. And then do the test.
I always say to Donna, that's one of the ultimate homoerotica movies.
Yeah, and I mean,
between Keanu Reeves and Patrick Swayze, there's such a kind of like dynamic between them in that movie.
Great cast as well. Like you've got people like John McGinley in a small role, Gary Busey, Laurie Petty. Really good cast. You know, anyone who hasn't
what was that? I picked up Bike Riders. I picked up Ted Lasso, the TV series, African Queen, Inspector Calls. Let me have a look. There's a couple more.
Did it? So that's an Apple show, isn't it? I wouldn't have thought there'd been any home release for that.
It's on Blu-ray, so I thought, pick up because it was in the sale. North by Northwest as well. I picked up, the Alfred Hitchcock film.
Okay.
I got a collector's edition, but I was like, do I need the steel book in the box with the artwork and that at that price? No, I need the. I think when it comes to that, you need to get on the things you really, really love. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I picked up a few games with Donna, so.
Weirdly, I'm on a dry spell with catalogue titles. I'm picking up, and anyone who's watched our physical media conversation will know that I'm quite tightly pursed with overpaying for films. So a lot of the catalogue titles I want to pick up just aren't in my price range at the moment. But yeah, I pre-ordered BeetleJuice BeetleJuice purely because that version will go out of print at some point. I don't want to run the risk of missing it. And I'll be picking up a film that hasn't come out yet when it gets a home release. Very unlikely film for me. Better Man, which is American, which is a musical about the UK kind of. What would you describe him as? Heartthrob? Boy band member?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I mean, it's Robbie Williams is his name, not to be confused with Robin. And they kind of decided to portray him as a CGI monkey, tell his life story, the CGI monkey. Paramount, he's not known in America, Robbie Williams. He's quite a big presence in the UK. So they're doing this film of him. They're selling it like a musical based, independently of him. So all the songs won't be familiar with American watchers. They'll hear these songs like they were written for this musical, but really they're all these jukebox. It's a jukebox musical. Yeah, I enjoyed that film a lot. So I'm looking forward to a home release of that, but it hasn't even had a theatrical yet. I saw some stuff at the festival I liked. I didn't see any standout this time. The nearest I would say is Emilia Perez, which is a Netflix film. That's interesting. It's kind of, for anyone who's watching that film, it's so tonally odd that I'd say you want to remember that you're watching a Greek tragedy, and then it will make more sense. I didn't kind of realize that till the last 30 minutes. But yeah,
a bit like Coriolanus.
A bit like what?
Coriolanus.
I've not watched. Did I watch Coriolanus? The
Joe Butler one. Was it Ray Fiennes and Joe Butler?
I didn't see that come out. Ray Fiennes directed. Yeah. What about you? What are you looking forward to coming out or anything?
I don't know. A Legend, I think the Jackie Chan film.
Okay.
I don't think I really keep up with what's in the cinema, to be honest.
Probably. I work in the cinema industry, but other than I saw Paddington in Peru, which I enjoy. Anora.
I do want to see that my hopes aren't high. I want to see that John Wick spin-off, Kane, with Donnie Yen. Sleeping Dogs, the movie. But yeah, other than that, I can't really think of much, to be honest. It's because I think it's because over the years I focused more on media itself than what's in the cinema. You know,
Wow.
I did want to go and see Big Red One, but
Yeah,
Alex wasn't interested in that. So, you know, he was like, I ain't going to see that. And I was like, all right then.
I think you and Alex should hold hands and go see Better Man. I'm never going to sell that film to anybody because in the UK, no one really likes Robbie Williams. It's from the Robbie Williams is quite a cocky persona, so people have this love-hate
because it's not still the one.
Exactly, to quote what we said. And he's very cocky, which people don't really like. He's also very loved by women, which men don't like. And he's been portrayed by a CGI monkey, which women won't like. So I don't know who will watch that film, but I hope he will find an audience because it's a piece of feel-good music horror.
And he turned his back on the greatest group ever. Take that.
Yeah, UK boy band. But Wicked is out near it as well. A film I have no interest in, but everyone seems quite excited by that.
What film?
Wicked, the musical.
Oh, no, I've no interest in that. I think it's crap.
No interest at all. I watched the trailer and thought it just looked like another Cats, and I think I'll see it.
Yeah, it probably will.
Sway me.
Well, why, but every time I see that Grande, I always think to myself, boy, she looks thinner and thinner every time I see her.
I know this is huge. Nothing she's done has made an impact. I tell a lie. She was very funny in Don't Look Up, the Leonardo DiCaprio End of the World comedy drama. She's very funny in that. But yeah, other than that, like, you know, modern music.
Anything else you'd like to talk about before we end at 1 hour and 45 minutes?
I would love to hear again for everybody at home. I think you had a similar. So I work in the cinema industry, and I have to deal sometimes with odd film titles. The weirdest one I had to deal with is a UK independent, really good film actually. UK independent coming of age drama called How to Have Sex, which really excited overcoats. Don't go. There's no sex in this film, really. There's certainly no.
It's actually a very emotional.
Yeah. I wasn't expecting to like that film because they're kind of people that annoy me. But when you actually hear the story about these groups of girls going to Ibiza to pick up boys and whatnot, and the insecurities and whatnot, it was a lovely little film. But not a great film to work because you end up using sentences like, "I'm waiting for How to Have Sex. I'm going to watch How to Have Sex."
Would you like to watch How to Have Sex with me?
Yeah, I was just testing how to have sex. So, Malcolm, I want to hear the story about when you tried to purchase a quite widely known revered horror film called Strip Nude for Your Killer.
Okay, so I was in Reading. I was with Donna. I went in there and I want to pick up Strip Nude for Your Killer. It's one of my favourite jellies. And it went on the shelf. Every other movie release was on the shelf except that one.
Is it Japanese? It's not. It's Italian, isn't it?
No, it's Italian, yeah. It was for this.
All right, guys. Everyone got sick discarded.
So normally I ask Donna to go and ask for me, but she goes to me, I'm not going to ask that title. And I went, okay, I'll do it. I will come to the counter.
Anything else? You should have gone, okay, I want to get a Blu-ray of How to Have Sex as well. You should have said How to Have Sex, Strip Nude for Your Killer. What other ones could you do? It's got to be.
Whole point. What else? There is others, isn't there? Nymphomaniac 1 and 2.
Nymphomaniac,
could have put that in there. But anyway, so I go up to the can. There's this really lovely blonde-looking girl there. Probably doesn't help, but she's very attractive and all this. And so she's obviously thinking when I say stuff. So I say to her, "Hi, do you have Strip Nude for Your Killer?" Please. And she goes, "Beg your pardon? Strip Nude for Your Killer. Do you have it in stock?" "What are you asking me?" And I'm like, "No, it's not on the side. So could you find Strip Nude for Your Killer for me?" Starts having a go at me, hits the bell for assistance. Guy turns up. And he's asking me inappropriate things. And I'm like, "No. What did you ask her?" I asked if you had a copy of Strip Nude for Your Killer. And she's like, no, he didn't. He said he wanted me a strip nude while he killed me. No, that's not true. Shameless Entertainment released recently Strip Nude for Your Killer, the Giallo, on Blu-ray. Can you please check? And he goes, that's why it did come out, but we don't have it in stock. Right? And I'm like, oh, I've been here for like 20 minutes asking this. So just if I leave, the girl looks at me like this. Like, you made that up on the spot because you wanted to get me. And I was like,
create a season with it. Look up inappropriate titles and each week go in when she's working and ask her, say, this week I'd like how to have sex, please.
What I should do is one year do, so they do that then. You know that really pervy manga where it goes like tied up bondage babies for your one and just put on the counter, I'll have this place. Every week. I was like, what the hell? I was like, getting so angry with me. So I went up to Donna. She went, did that? I went, no, they bloody didn't. And she accused me of harassing her. And Donna went, oh, well, at least you know now, but they don't ever. I went, yeah, thanks.
Shopping with Malcolm, an interesting new series coming up.
I never forget that time I was out with you, and we were going down the escalator, in town. And I moved my arm back, and I literally elbowed a woman right in the face because I went like this. I went, oh, elbowed her right in the face. Right? She looked up at me. She was on the floor, and I just went, sorry. He was running behind me. That's what happened.
Could have been worse. No one had seen it. They'd have been like, "Oh, did he punch her for no reason?"
Yeah, good thing no boy. Yeah, because I punched him right in the face. Boom. It's not when someone asked me. Someone asked me years ago, "How did Donna break her arm?" I said, "I just got fed up with her and snapped it off." Right? I was like, "Who the hell asked me that?" But yeah. So that's. I hope you guys enjoyed today's stream. And we'll be back soon once I know the time. And now I will schedule it days ahead so you guys can find out beforehand. But we're going to see how it goes. It's definitely going to be before the end of the year. So,
definitely. I've got a window coming up in December. My work's quite intense at the moment, but I've got a window coming up that I'm going to be watching Soho again. I'm looking forward to watching it again, actually. And and we'll talk about some of the things in that film that didn't work and whatnot. So yeah, it'd be a good one. Malcolm hasn't seen it either, so it'd be lovely to talk about it.
So what will happen on the next video? What's that?
I was just saying, you're the Jallo expert, so I'm really been wanting your opinion on this for some time. So.
Yes, I did buy it when I was in America, but the TV sucked so bad I couldn't even watch it. When I tried buying that Samsung that time.
Yeah.
So guys, what's going to happen next is we're going to talk about the movie, and then we'll probably talk at the end about basically what future probably will hold when it comes to future titles and stuff. So look forward to that. I will, as I said, I'll schedule once we know for sure. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys. And I will let Mark finish off with his own words.
Yeah, I just want to say thanks for you guys for just supporting Malcolm's channel and whatnot. Malcolm's done some fantastic other videos with collaborators as well. There's is it Benay's Bits? Benay's Bloody Bits?
Yeah, Benay's Bloody Bits, where we cover normally every Monday we cover a video, a film, for like half an hour, and then there's Aaron Pinn. I haven't done a video with him in ages, so hopefully when he gets back from Canada, we'll do a video because I know a lot of people want us to do a video.
Really,
and then
I was just going to say I really want to recommend the Summer School one. That's a lovely 1987 teen comedy with like horror leanings because two of the characters in it are horror obsessive, so they end up in the film reenacting the Texas Chainsaw Massacre in a classroom. So yeah, that's a lovely little film.
That's a great film, actually. I recommend that, guys. It's a great film.
And yeah, I recommend the chat that he did with Benay as well. But you were going to say, sorry, Malcolm, the other channels.
No, I was going to say, and obviously the videos I do with you.
Right. Well, as I say, I enjoyed being here. If you've got suggestions for us, either pop them in the comments or in Malcolm's other chats. But yeah, it's been fun. I was looking forward to talking about this one because there's so much to talk about with such a crazy film. But yeah, I liked it. It's definitely with reservations, but I liked it. It's I have as much affection for BeetleJuice as I do Gremlins 2, which is a good thing.
Makes sense, definitely. Okay, guys, you guys take care. We shall see you soon. Thanks for watching. And Mark says Fantex. To you, it's in thanks, but with a fan on the end.
Yeah.
Take care, guys. Bye.
Oh, it's still live. Dun dun dun.
I don't know what happened there. Bye, guys.